Hello and welcome to Splunk Perspectives, a podcast providing executive takes on security and technology topics by leaders for leaders. Today, I'm excited to be joined by Suid from RiverSafe and my colleague here, James from Splunk. And today we're going to be talking about how data-driven organizations are outperforming their partners that are not so data-driven. And then also how the economic climate is making significant changes and making organizations think very differently about how they invest in tooling and consolidate their tooling across their organizations. So Suid, over to you. I'd like you, maybe if you can just talk a little bit about your role, your organization, and the types of customers and challenges that they are facing.
Thank you very much. Thanks for having me on the show. My name is Suid Adeyanju. I'm the founder CEO of RiverSafe. We're a specialist cybersecurity consulting organization, and we've been going now for about 13 years. We service customers in the large enterprise sector, we're a big Splunk partner.
Great.
So Suid, over the years, there've been many attempts to look at kind of the data problems, solving kind of the different formats, the growing kind of areas, but ultimately it comes down to it's just data at the end of the day. There's no point having the data without doing the analysis. What are you seeing in the market and going that sent to analysis and getting value out of it?
Interesting question. There's been a data explosion for many years now. We've seen many organizations having data sources coming from different sources. There's no point in having this data without actually exploiting it. Organizations that have been able to actually get insight from the data they collect have been able to make better decisions. So being able to have a unified platform to have this data analyzed and leveraged properly is absolutely essential and critical for organizations that are going to be making the decisions of the future. That's what we're seeing in the market, the ability to use a unified platform to do their decision making.
And I'm going to get slightly off piste here, but you run a successful business doing consulting. Have you found, when you look at security, DevOps, no matter what it was, having that common platform that helps in the training burden of kind of skills, a common language to work? Because at the end of the day, I have the view it's an instance, just an incident. And you need different people with different thought processes to be able to have a common language to go and work together.
Absolutely. I think being able to have a common tool across different business units is, it just helps significantly from a cost perspective. And if you look at, like you rightly said there, from a skill set perspective, having to train people in different tools takes time, effort as well. So being able to use the same skill set across multiple business units and having like a center of excellence to manage this tool set to serve these business units and their use cases is absolutely essential and makes a business sense ultimately in terms of operational efficiency, in terms of reducing cost. It's absolutely essential.
It absolutely makes sense from a business perspective. But from a technical implementation point of view, it's very difficult to do this, right? So we often see organizations struggling with silos of data across various divisions or departments within an organization. Can you maybe share some examples of the types of use cases that you've seen, some success stories maybe of some of your customers where they've decided to bring some of them data sets together?
Yeah, so there are a number of large organizations that we work with where especially when it comes to evaluating tools for their specific requirements, what we see is that these units go out into the market and try and evaluate different tool sets to service different use cases that they have. But what we've been trying to do is have conversations with them, because sometimes we have we have a particular tool set put in a business unit, for example, in a cybersecurity function, and they're using that to actually provide monitoring capabilities and alerting capabilities within that cybersecurity department. However, some of the data that they have that they're using for that within that unit is required by, say, for example, the IT operations team, and they are having to then take data from them into their environment in order to actually, start to analyze that and use that for their own purposes.
Or worse still, collect it again.
Exactly. So basically duplicating data. So the ability for them to, have it in one centralized location has been, very useful for them and helps them in saving cost, as we said earlier on, and standardizing skill set across the business. So
I'm going to dig into this a bit more, but I'd like you to think about it in the perspective of a business owner.
Yeah.
So we've done a lot of research over the years, and some of the Splunk research has shown that 80% of the data is shared across security and kind of IT monitoring, observability, kind of anything to do with digital operations. What have you kind of seen in the marketplace of the convergence of IT teams, security teams, kind of reusing that data? And what's maybe some of the barriers you've seen?
Yeah, it's quite interesting, that question, because if you look at the advent of DevOps and DevSecOps, you can see the amalgamation of the development teams and the operations teams and the security teams. And with each of these teams, previously they used different tool sets, right? And as people, as organizations go on the digital transformation journey, they're coming to a point where they have need to have visibility across all of these various teams. So being able to, standardize on a particular set of tool sets to use in delivering their requirement, it's just golden. It's what we're seeing in the market. We're seeing a lot of organizations merging their teams, consolidating their tool sets, and looking at their requirements holistically. Not just the development team having their own specific requirement and security having their own specific requirement, as well as IT operations, but looking at the requirement from a top level and understanding how that can be serviced from a unified platform.
So you maybe started as a kind of more security-focused company, then you kind of brought a bit DevSecOps, specific kind of DevOps. Really, you're a digital transformation, digital resilience, kind of tool consolidation organization, do you think? It's always hard to describe it.
Yeah, so it's interesting because we pride ourselves on accelerating time to value for customers. Okay, so when we go into an organization, what we're trying to do is understand exactly what their requirements are, and how we can service that requirement, perhaps with the tool set they already have within their environment. Okay, so we're not going in there trying to sell them new tools, but understand what they have, what their requirements are, and how they can get better value from what they have. And what we've seen is that we usually go into large organizations. They have, a number of tools, but one or two of those tools can actually do a number of the use cases they already have. So it's about driving much more value from what they have in existence. So to answer your question specifically, yes, we started off as a cybersecurity consulting company, but as we get involved in, we need monitoring capability, for example, in the cloud for this project that we're doing, we started looking at how we can help our customers to put that capability in place. And that's helped us to kind of then move into the DevSecOps space, and ultimately realizing that just doing DevSecOps alienates the engineering team, right? And if you want to get the engineering team on board, you need to be able to speak their language. So having a skill set and the capability to talk their language from an engineering perspective allows us to then also help them integrate security into what they're doing. And that's kind of how we've morphed as an organization to be able to cover all these various facets.
Such a great journey.
Yeah. Indeed.
So let's maybe dive into this tool consolidation for a second, because it's a great idea, right? The idea, if you can make consolidated tool decisions at a much more senior level, then everybody can use the same tools. Wonderful. But realistically, it's difficult, because that means that you're taking away the ability of maybe your IT operations manager to make decisions about their security tooling, and their DevOps people to remove some of their autonomy, maybe. So how do you go about, or how have you seen customers making that leap, as it were, to a much more strategic view on their tools?
Frankly, a lot of the customers that we're working with, we're seeing that this initiative is coming down from the board,
right,
and it's coming down from the finance team there's an incentive, especially in this economic climate. There's a drive to lower the costs, and as this is coming down to the teams, it's becoming a bit easier to have a conversation with them around why are you looking at buying another tool? You've got this specific tool which is providing this capability within this other department, for example, in the IT operations department. Why don't you extend that to give you, to help service your use cases in the security department or in the DevOps teams? So it's although the politics involved is not as easy as, I've just described it, but, when there's a drive, a cost drive coming down from senior management, it's sometimes an easier conversation to have with the management team.
There's almost a forcing function to get departments to talk to one another.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. They're being told to reduce cost, and if you're helping them to achieve that objective, then they tend to listen to you.
Yeah, as part of reducing costs, quite often what we see is taking offline processes or processes that part digitize, maybe move that to the cloud, look at that digital journey. That's a complicated thing because you have to understand your process. Think about, do you still like your process? Do you want to revamp your process? What technology you're going to bring? What risk is going to bring? Change management, all of those different types of things.
Yeah.
What advice would you give to people that are thinking about or preparing for some of those digitization changes? It's a difficult word to say.
Yeah. So I think a number of things that we always kind of recommend to our clients when they're going on that journey. Clearly, the key thing is you want to make sure that you're putting security at the heart of what you're doing. Especially when you're creating a platform that is being shared across different business units, you want to make sure that the right level of controls are put in place so that the different departments have access to the right data. So it's like least privilege kind of principles. You just make sure that they're not, you're not giving them access to everything they don't really need to have access to. So we tend to kind of talk to them about that. The other thing about it is about looking at hybrid solutions. So looking at software vendors or solutions that have the capability to provide on-prem and cloud capability, because at the end of the day, especially with large legacy organizations, they still have, a lot of legacy applications. They have, old kit sat somewhere in the data center, which nobody wants to touch. Right, so it's absolutely essential that you're still able to provide either whether it's security or whether it's observability around those tool sets, whilst you're looking at your plan to migrate into the cloud. So having a solution that can help you, bridge that gap and give you visibility across your on-prem and cloud is also absolutely essential. And I think it's important about when it comes to consolidation is understanding the use cases for each of the business units that you have within the organization. How do you then understand what data sources drive those use cases, and how you actually decide to kind of bring those data sources, the data info you need together in order to service the requirement that you're looking for. So those are the kind of just a few points that
just not much to think about.
Wonderful. Well, thank you. That's been really interesting. I've enjoyed this conversation very much. So, Suid, thank you very much for joining us here today. Thank you very much for listening today. This has been Splunk Perspectives. I've been Shaun Cooney. Thank you for listening.